So one of the most important things with all species is reproduction, right? And nest biology starts that off. Around the highlands, now this varies on geographics, but around highlands, early March is when courtship begins. The male will come and find a female, and they'll usually pair bond for quite some time, and so they'll have some courtship. One thing I've really noticed in my findings is snow depth in the spring really influences the timing of the nest. So if we have a really late snowpack, nest production may be a little less, and then also less, nest, it'll just be longer. It'll be longer for them to hatch, longer for them to fledge. And one of the reasons that that's the case is they're a ground hunter, right? So if there's a snowpack that lingers, that's going to obstruct their availability of abundant food for chicks. So it would behoove them to wait a little longer in the season once that snow melts, so then everything's visible and not under 3 feet of snow. Males do a really good job of bringing food to help conserve the energy of the females during that courtship. So he'll go off and hunt. If she's got a nest around, she'll stay fairly localized towards where that nest is, and he'll do a really good job of going out searching, bringing food back for that female, and again, the courtship aspect of that. And then once they choose a nest, they will, the female will lay up to one to 5 eggs. In the highlands, my experience is 1 to 3, and most often it's 1. And I think a lot of that has to do with prey availability and just overall conditions. And that, that makes sense, because if you've got a lot of food, you're going to have a lot of young. And the studies in Oregon showed that, where prey abundance really influenced chick numbers. And in the highlands, again, 1 to 3 is what I've seen. The best is 3 out of 1 nest, but typically I'm in that 1 to 2 range that I'm seeing in the highlands. And then for whatever reason, they're just the eggs are susceptible to failure, and about 20% fail. And that can be anything from predation to just a young female just not knowing exactly how to incubate eggs. Incubation lasts about a month. Okay, you see a lot of species, and everybody asks, well, how many days incubation? And I always just about a month. Now, 30 to 36 days, that's what the book says, but right around a month is what I go by. So you figure if they are laying eggs about the 1st of April, okay, they've courtshipped in March, they're laying eggs around the 1st of April, then they'll incubate about 30 days, and then the young will stay in the nest about 30 days. That gives me about a June 1 timeline when chicks should be ready to come out of the nest. So once the owlets or young hatch, they'll stay in the nest for about 30 days. And again, they're predominantly or 100% fed by the male and female. And the male, he is an avid hunter. He's out hunting for the little ground mice and voles and stuff like that. And a lot of what they'll bring back to the nest are pieces of the shrews and the voles. And that's because the chicks are way too young to swallow them whole. But this picture here that Justin Haug took when we went out, this is a chick here, and you'll see some more pictures. But this amazing picture he got, this is, I'm pretty sure, a redback bull. You can see how small it is. But this chick was about a week from fledging, and it choked it down whole. It didn't even hesitate. Wow, amazing. So the female, it'll sit there and brood the young for again right at a month, while the male, he's out really hunting hard. And around the 1st of June is when the owlets leave. I was grabbing some stuff out of my rig today, and I looked at my notebook, and the one nest I had this year that had one chick in it, it fledged the 16th of June. And I'm thinking, well, you know, why is that? So I kept looking back, and I try to keep logs of snow depth and stuff. And we had a little linger in this certain area of snow, so I'm thinking maybe that's why it was. And then I look back further into some notes, and I'm thinking this was the same owl that this picture of is, and this is about the second week in June. So I think depending on owl location and snow depth is when about they fledge and leave the nest. So once the owlets leave the nest, the female is fierce in protecting the owlets. One reason is because the owlets, once they try to fly out, they just drop to the ground, and they're really susceptible to any ground predators, coyotes, house cats, dogs, you name it, they're susceptible. And in the literature, the females have been noted to attack joggers and hikers and stuff like that within about that first week. So being really, really aggressive to anybody and anything coming around the chicks. And the males will continue to feed up to 3 months the young once they fledge, and the female, usually right around a month period, she'll leave and venture off within about a half mile and just kind of do her thing, regain her energy. Is why I think they leave and leave the care and the feeding primarily up to the male. So that's kind of the nest biology. This was a goshawk nest that was abandoned and taken up by a great gray. And you'll notice, I thought, well, maybe I found the one evidence that they brought sticks to a nest, because this was a green limb, but I started looking closer at it, and I think it just fell off of this tree here. Same nest here, there was a hill we could get on and almost look directly into it.
How high up is that at?
They're right around 50 feet. It is on average. That particular nest was about 60. So we go from nesting biology to nesting habitat, and they're commonly found. The nests are commonly found in mature conifer forests, and to no surprise, adjacent to the open meadows, open wet and or dry meadows. And I think I just explained the Okanagan Highlands, right? So I'll have a better slide to kind of reiterate that. But if that doesn't tell you Highlands, nothing will. So that's why I think we have some of the best habitat in Washington, is because of that right there. We've got conifer forests, mature, next to the meadows. Areas with large trees and dense canopy cover, they're generally in canopy cover 50% or more. I'm standing in a little opening here, but this nest here in this Douglas fir, if you were to walk underneath it, it's 60+% canopy cover. So there's a lot of shade over the top of it, a lot of shade over the top, and that does two things. Thermal regulation, but it also protection from avian predators. They get just harassed by birds, and especially ravens and stuff like that. One of the most important things that great grays need are a dead tree component, and it's a twofold thing, and it provides nests, and it also provides prey habitat. So if you see this log down here, to somebody it might be we need to drag that to a brush pile and burn it up. But what's underneath that log and what lives in that log is what feeds that owl. So the small prey that live in that log will help feed that owl. And then the leaning trees are very important. And this shows a little leaner here. There's some leaners back here. And in every nest stand that I went to, there's this component. And all the literature points to it. And the reason for that is when the owlets hit the ground, they're on the ground, literally on the ground or a stump for the first 1 to 3 days, okay? And then they're great climbers. If you look at this guy's feet over here, the stuffed owl, you'll see that his feet their talons are amazing. The chicks, the owlets, they have almost, just a smaller version of those talons. They could climb trees within a week like this. So to get on the ground level, if there were no leaners, they would be on the ground level for over a week. But these leaner trees provide a ladder, per se, to get up to the next limb. And then from there, once they get from here, they'll stay for about a week at that level, and then they'll have enough strength to just climb vertically straight up. But these are really important to them, these leaner trees. And if we do specific thinning for great grays in certain stands, I'll actually go through and tell the crew to not cut the tree flat down on the ground horizontal, but to hang them up and try to provide some of that leaning habitat for the owlets, because that's a really critical point for nesting habitat. There's two types of nests. There's stick nests, and then there's the platform nest. They're a platform nester, and even stick nests, again, just like a platter or a platform, they need that platform. And abandoned stick nests like this one here, I believe this was an old red-tail stick nest. This was on state land up here in the Highlands, and it wasn't used that year, so the great gray, she was in it. She's actually sitting right below it, and then the male was behind me. And so it provided a great platform. Now, I'll show you later some larger trees. As they break off, they provide that platform as well, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. So this is another picture of some nest habitat here. This tree right here, fairly open understory. Okay, when these owls come out, they're not hitting a bunch of regeneration trees or younger trees. They can come right out of the nest and get right underneath the canopy cover. This is textbook goshawk habitat too, because they need the same thing. But this is an old goshawk nest that was converted into a great gray nest. And we were on site with some foresters hashing out what we're going to do with this stand. So this was a fun one because we had a lot of options to do. And if you can see even this tree back here, it's a leaner. So in every stand, every nest stand, you'll have leaners really close to the actual nest tree itself. And this was right around 50 feet up. So what I'd like to do now is Lee Johnson was gracious enough to loan me some of his pictures. Lee's going to talk just briefly about what he's seen up by his house as far as nesting habitat and so forth. So, and then right after that, we'll do a quick intermission.